and welcome to Booklust. I'm Nancy Pearl. My guest today is crime novelist Stephen Mack Jones, whose first novel, August Snow, was one of my very favorite crime novels ever. Steve, you were supposed to come to Seattle right after August Snow was published, and we had
I know,
a
I know.
snowstorm.
And we got stopped by a once a century snowstorm.
Yes, yes.
Um,
It made me think if you had named him like August Sunshine, that, maybe that would not have happened.
we might have gotten a break, but it is so good to see you, Nancy. It's wonderful.
You as well. Um, so tell me how August Snow came about. Tell me how August Snow came about.
Um, August Snow was, I'd love to give you a 400 level college statement on dissertation on how the character was born. The truth of the matter is, I was mowing my back lawn, and mowing the lawn is simply, zen with a power tool. And two words settled on my mind, August and snow. And I thought that's stupid. That's silly. It doesn't snow in August. And, I finished the lawn. Well, those two words stuck to my brain like thistles. And, a week passed by, 2 weeks passed by. And I said, well, essentially I'm going to have to do something about this. And the only choices were, talk therapy to find out what was going on, or writing a story. And since writing stories has a much lower copay, I decided to go that way. And I had a 3-page treatment of a story, Untitled, where I had written in the word hero in capital letters. And I thought, well, August Snow, that's a very, we'll name the baby that. And that's how the name came about.
And
Um,
and
yes.
so the same thing happened when I first saw the book. I mean, I thought, August Snow, well, it doesn't snow in August. And that's when I picked it up and opened it up and saw that it was set in Detroit, which is my hometown. And I have to say that one of the things that I was very happy about in the blurb on the back of your new book, Dead of Winter, it says that you were born in Lansing, the capital of Michigan, and you live in a suburb of Detroit. I'm very happy it didn't say that you live, that you're from Detroit, because what really makes me insane is when people say, I grew up in Detroit, but what they really mean is they grew up in Grosse Pointe, or they grew up in Livonia, or some suburb of Detroit. So I, who did grow up in the center of Detroit, take a powerful pride in that. So when I saw August Snow was set in Detroit, in what is called Mexican Town, and that he is, half Mexican, his mom, and half African American, his dad, I was immediately hooked. And plus, I love crime novels, and I loved August Snow.
I can't thank you enough for that, Nancy. Uh, I worked in the core of the city when they were calling the city the Renaissance city. And there was very little that was Renaissance about it back then, save for the name of the towers that eventually became General Motors headquarters. Uh, the the changes that the city has gone through, including bankruptcy, have taught the city a lot. But as I'm sure you know, every city has its own personality. You may not feel it quite at the beginning, but it does exude its own personality. And Detroit has the personality of a city that uh, tough-minded. Uh, it'll knock you down 1 minute, bloody your lip, and then it will raise you on its shoulders. It's a tough city, but it's also a very loving and inclusive city, and that's part of part of what I wanted to communicate through this series.
And I think you have. I know when I first read August Snow, I put the book down, and started Googling Zillow and started looking for houses in Detroit, because I wanted to go to all the restaurants that August Snow talks about. Are they real? Is that delicatessen a real restaurant?
No, the deli is Schmears. I'm sorry about the wobble. Um, I'm having technical difficulties because I'm my own employee. Um, Schmears, nearly every other restaurant I mention is real, save for Schmears and Cafe Consuelo. And I had the same problem with both because Detroit has some wonderful delis. Um, I should know I've put on weight because of them. And I could not choose one of the delis without feeling like I shortchanged another deli. Um, so I came up with Schmears, which is kind of my way of saying thank you to all of the great pastrami and rye coleslaw that I've had at a number of
Right.
delis around town.
It's
And
sort
it
of.
was,
Oh,
yes,
go ahead. Oh,
well, it was the same with Cafe Consuelo, which um, people have asked me, um, is Cafe Consuelo real? Uh, and I tell them, no, it's kind of a combination of all the nice taquerias that I've been to, where you know that the abuela is in the kitchen with her daughter-in-law cooking the food, and they don't take plastic. It's all cash. And I couldn't settle on one. So that's where Cafe can switch. And you can't imagine the people that I've told that are actually mad.
yes, right,
Uh,
right. Hugely disappointed. Like they're kind of like the platonic delicatessen, the platonic cafe. You know,
yes.
the Adalon. I'm not going to try to pronounce Greek, which I did, which I could at one time in my life. Um, so so you've gone on after that first one, August Snow, to write up to now two more. And I understand from our kind of pre-talk that the fourth one you're working on, or it's in some stage of development.
Yes, I completed a rough draft and
Do you- so
ready to go.
Were there any decisions that you made in August Snow because that you regret now? You know, that you wish you had left it more open ended, or you know, I mean, I think that nobody, well, maybe somebody, maybe some novelists do sit down with their first book and think, oh, this is going to be a series. You know, I think, the success of August Snow led to the second and then the third book, right? From Soho Press, one of the leading presses in many areas, but mysteries are why I go to Soho are their mysteries. So I'm always interested in those decisions that you make, that one makes sort of casually. I mean, in my own, just not parallel at all, but in George and Lizzie, in my novel, I did make decisions that I wish now I could undo. Like I wish that, that it had been the basketball team and not the football team, I mean, because it'd be easier to work with 5 players rather than,
Right.
or whatever. So, in that way, were there decisions that you made?
Quite honestly, I can't think of a decision that I regret.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I don't know how that sounds, but um,
Perfectly reasonable,
I
sounds.
was I was I was actually pleased with the world that I created for August Snow. And it was, in many ways, a reflection of the way I grew up, the wisdom of my parents, and to some extent the neighborhood that I grew up um, in Lansing. Um, and that was that to have reflected some of the warmth, genuine warmth and love and challenges uh, that faced my parents in bringing up my brother and I. I felt that I had achieved that without becoming maudlin.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Uh,
definitely.
so, no, what actually my problem came with the second book. And the second book was, I think, something that a lot of authors from with series goes through, and that is, well, what does he do now?
Right. Right.
Um, you don't want to repeat yourself. And since I'm my first reader, um, I don't want to bore myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that was thinking about all of those things for the second book became problematic until you start digging in, until you start doing the work.
And for you, does doing the work, does that imply an outline? I mean, do you know how the book is going to end? Do you chart it chapter by chapter? What's your working style?
Oh, gosh, Nancy, I wish you hadn't asked that. But since you have, uh, generally, I just fly by the seat of my pants. You know that old question of, are you a pantser or a plotter? Um, I'm the guy that stands at the edge of a cliff backwards at midnight and then jumps off, hoping, it's a soft landing. But I usually start with an idea, and I if I do write anything down, it's maybe one page or one paragraph that encapsulates the plot.
Hmm.
And then I start writing, and usually the writing is chapter one, chapter two, chapter three. I may have an idea for chapter seven. I'll get that down, and then backfilling to make sure that all of the connective tissue is there.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'm surprised. I surprise myself with what comes out on the page. It may take a different direction, um, but a more interesting direction. So,
Yeah, I was just going to say that another of the things that I appreciated so much is how, especially in August Snow, it's parallel to, events in it are parallel to real Detroit events. So, you get a sense of both the pessimism and the dirty politics and all that, but at the same time you have this kind of hopeful. You have this hero who is a hero. I mean, I think he's a hero in the Raymond Chandler sense of the word. Who's rehabbing houses. Sort of cleaning up a neighborhood physically. One house at a time. I just found that very, not something you always see in a crime novel.
well, exactly, and I guess even with the things that I've seen and experienced, there is always the presence of hope. And I didn't want to write an anti-hero.
Hmm.
Um, I wanted to write something heroic,
Hmm.
um, something that intrigued the reader, something that carried the reader through um, a fast-paced, good thriller. But I also wanted the reader to know that this person, August Snow, was raised in a good home where they taught him, his mother and father taught him, um, staying on a true north path.
Hmm.
And of course, we all vary. I mean, if you take a flight from Los Angeles to New York, it's not just a straight run.
Right.
There are course corrections all the time. And that I think adds to August's sense of humanity, um, going off of the true north path, but knowing that he's going off of that and trying to get that heading again. And it's something I think we all as humans struggle with.
Right. So were you a reader of crime fiction before you, because you're a poet and you've written plays, but August Snow is your first novel, and and if you wanted a hero, you could have written a heroic romance or something. I don't know. Do you read a lot of crime fiction, a lot of mysteries?
I do, and I have throughout my life read a lot of crime fiction, and come on, you know as well as I do, Nancy, that it's on a cold day and you have the flu and you look outside and everything is just monochromatic grays. There's nothing better than a a cup of hot tea, a little honey in it, maybe a squeeze of lemon, and Agatha Christie.
Right.
Um, that speaks to part of my development, part of my reading history. And of course, Sherlock Holmes, all of those folks, Dashiell Hammett, Raymond Chandler, all of that, and also Robert B. Parker,
Right.
who taught me a lot. Some of it intentional, some of it unintentional. His pacing, his stories were just excellent, just wonderful. The Spencer novels. But the one thing that I always found lacking was that his compadre, Hawk, was always a background character. And I wanted to change the perspective with August Snow.
Well, what about somebody like a contemporary writer, of thrillers like that, with a hero, Lee Child? I mean, is that, his books, and there's a continuing character for you, Jack Reacher. I think now 25 books and counting. Although Lee Child's brother is now writing them.
Right.
Are there contemporary novelists, crime novelists, or other novelists that you admire? The kind of where you say,
most definitely.
yeah.
Top of the list would be Walter Mosley. He, I think, is who a lot of writers of color aspire to be. He's set the bar. Also, New Kid on the Block, Sean Cosby.
I haven't any. Oh, is that S.A. Cosby?
S.A. Cosby, yes. Brilliant young man, putting out some wonderful work. Also, oh my goodness, Naomi Hirahara, what is it, Clark and Division?
Right.
And she's going to be our guest next month on Book Lust. So.
Oh, yeah.
What good taste I have, right, Steve?
Yes, you do. Impeccable taste. She's wonderful. You know what? I am not much of a cozy mystery reader.
Right.
But and I hate to sound like the old beer commercial, I don't always read cozies, but when I do, Abby Van Diver, she is wonderful. I think her last book was called A Game of Cones.
Yeah.
I know you can always tell it's a cozy because it has a pun in the title. I mean, you have got to admire those, who's ever coming up with those titles, because I always think, how could they think of yet another pun? And it just goes on and on. They're so inventive. I just love that part of it.
But there are a lot of writers out there who are doing exceptional work. I could mention more, but my head is flooded with.
Yes. And, as a librarian, I know that the hardest question that anyone can ask you is, what are you reading now? because as soon as somebody asks you that, every book that you've ever read in your life has flown out of your head, you know,
And if we go way back, I would have to list. Oh, he's pretty much forgotten now, which is a shame. Donald A. Walheim.
Oh,
Uh, Donald Walheim wrote the Mike Mars series, which I read as it would be called YA now.
right.
But he just fueled my imagination with his Mike Mars series.
oh gosh, I've never read those. I've got to go get those in the Van Diver books. I've never read any of those as well.
Yes.
Um,
Just wonderful night, and Ray Bradbury and all the others. So, but you asked about poetry.
Uh-huh.
I think we've talked about poetry before, but my stance with poetry has always been that poetry is honestly where I first learned to appreciate the weight and color and sense and meanings of individual words, how important it was for a poet to choose the right word to evoke the right image, the right emotion. Pablo Neruda and Octavio Paz, Langston Hughes, Nikki Giovanni, all of these poets, Seamus Heaney,
Right.
all of these poets just taught me so much about words, choosing the right words to evoke the most colorful and vibrant of images.
Wow.
So I owe them a lot.
Yeah. Well, Steve, we've come to the end of our time together Zoomily, but I'm hoping that my husband and I can come back to Detroit to visit family that we still have there, and that we can get together and talk some more.
That would be wonderful, and I look forward to it, Nancy.
Me too, and thank you so much for doing the program today. A little delayed, 2018 to 2021, but we did it, and now you have 3 books instead of 1, and we'll look forward to the 4th in the series.
The latest. So
Yep.
thank you very much, Nancy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.